This time on Road and Race, I give the Boxster a thorough inspection. It's not good news. In my previous video, I went through all the small issues I'd found after owning the car for about a week. In this video, I'm going to get the car on the lift and give it a serious inspection. This means taking everything off. The under trays, the wheel arch linings, all the plastic, everything, so I can get a really good look. Also, I'll be checking out the common faults of these cars. So sometimes the brake lines can rust. There's a water drain that blocks, which can flood the car and cause ECU damage. And there's also, what else is there? Oh yes, oil leaks. Yes, that was mentioned in the MOT. Something else you need to look out for. After that, I'll get underneath the car, check out the engine number, which is stamped onto it. Then I can look it up and see if I have a good IMS bearing or the problematic ones which cause your engine to blow up. Anyway, let's start at the front of the car. Here I'm taking the plastic covers off as there is a water drain hole that can get blocked up with leaves and debris. If this happens, the water can flood into the cabin and ruin the ECU under the passenger seat. Giving this area a good vacuum, and it was quite wet, quite a lot of leaves in here. You can still see a little bit what's left. Down there is the drain plug, and it's quite clogged up, I think, so I'm going to unplug that. On the other side, it's the same. Again, you can see how all the leaves have rotted down and are blocking that drain in there. So again, I'll just kind of unblock that and show you. There you go, that's everything I managed to scrape out of there. Porsche probably have a special tool for this, like a suction pumping or something like that. I just use a screwdriver. And here's the other side cleaned up. Here's the cabin air filter. It cleans the air before it goes inside the car, and must have been changed recently because it's looking pretty clean. Here's the brake fluid reservoir, and it's looking nice and topped up. You can see the level there. Not sure when it was last changed, but at least it's not low. It's always interesting going through the gifts that previous owners of the car have left you. So unlike the previous generation Boxster, the 987 doesn't come with a spare wheel, it comes with an inflation kit, and obviously the one that came with it is expired. So he's bought his own. The large one here is for 18-inch wheels, so we're fine because we have an 18-inch wheel. I'm not sure what he was going to do with this one, because that's for a 16-inch wheel, so and this one's even smaller, so I don't think that would have been a huge amount of help. These things do expire though, 5-year shelf life I think, and this one expired in 2017, so I'm not sure how kind of accurate that is. I never tried to use a so-called expired one. I don't know why they expire, but if anybody clever knows, let me know in the comments. And around the back of the car, we can check the coolant level. And as you can see, it's at the maximum point. Just here. So that's good. One common problem with these Boxsters is that this grille isn't really sufficient and lots of leaves get trapped in here. And this is where the radiators are. And so the wet leaves just sit on the radiator and causes the radiator to corrode. So let's see if there's any leaves and stuff in here we need to clear out. So a small collection, but nothing disastrous. I don't want to take the front bumper off, so I'll see if I can vacuum that out. And it's pretty much the same thing on this side. Right, where's Henry? Much better. Good work, Henry. I think I add to my mods list some new kind of mesh style grills to keep all the leaves and debris out. With the wheel off and the arch lining off on here, I think it's looking fairly good actually, to be fair. I've looked under here, and that's pretty good. And behind here is pretty good as well. I'll quickly show you. Sometimes you can get leaves and rust accumulating in the bottom right hand corner there, but it all seems fine, which is good. There are two small issues though, as kind of expected. These exposed brake lines do take the brunt of the weather. So you can see the paint's peeling off there. And on the shock, got a bit of rust here. Again, I don't think it's anything to worry about, but I'll clean it up and painted just to stop it getting any worse. On the driver's side, it's pretty much the same situation, although this hard line here looks to me to be copper, I think. So that's been replaced in the past. Generally, everything else on the front looks pretty good. Boot on the steering rack looks fine. Boot on the lower arm. Flexible brake lines look fine, but I'll probably be replacing those anyway with braided steel lines. Bushings look fine. Anti-roll bar link looks fine. Spring itself shows no signs of rust. It does look a bit wet at the bottom of this hose. I assume it's for coolant, so I'll have to keep an eye on that. Measuring the front brake disc, new they're 24mm, and you can see here they're pretty much 24mm. So yeah, brand new. Front brake pads still have plenty of life left in them. Just pull one of the brake pads out, which is the joy of these Brembo calipers. APIC 1069. Just look these up and you can get a front set for about £25. So probably pads that are fine for everyday use, but probably not great for track work. Whilst amazingly the car is mostly rust-free everywhere, here you can see there's a little bit of a rust creeping in just on the sill and on the front wing. So I'll just treat that before it gets any worse. It's very, very minor. For anyone who tracks their cars, one thing you need to worry about is your brakes not working due to fade, due to too much heat. So what's really great about Porsche is actually designed this stuff in. So you've got an air scoop under here, which channels air into this duct here, which blows it onto the back of the brake disc. Brilliant. I didn't take all the arch linings fully off because I could peel them back and look behind. Plus, they're an absolute nightmare to fit back on because they're so stiff. My top tip for giving you a fighting chance is to use your wife's hairdryer. Babyliss, other brands are available. The front wheels are Michelin Pilot Sport 2s, which are an older tyre. You know, there's 4s and I think maybe the 5s come out now. Plenty of tread left on the tyre, but there's an issue. This is the manufacture date, 24th week of 2014. That makes them 9 years old. Apparently you can problems with the rubber drying out and the tyre just kind of splitting or blistering where the tyre splits. Especially on a performance car, this is a worry, so I'm going to have to put new tyres on the car before I can drive it. On the rears, we have Bridgestone Potenza RE050As. Again, plenty of tread left. And the manufacture date is okay. These were made in 2019, but since I need to replace the fronts, I'll probably just replace all 4 tyres. Let's remove this little cover. Has it done its job and protected against the elements, or is it hiding a huge rust hole? Remember, my 350Z, this is where there was a big hole of rust, so amazing. Good old Porsche. And on the other side, yeah, super clean, perfect, lovely. There was a lot of under tray I had to take off. It's nice to see because it protects the car, but I do worry. It's a bit of a jigsaw. I hope I can put it back together okay. Anyway, now that we're under here, we can see everything. Let's do an inspection. Let's start at the front. So these are the coolant crossover pipes. I assume that's because they cross over. And I've seen people have leaks where they join here and here, but mine's bone dry, which is good. And if you look at all the connections under the car, it all looks pretty good, doesn't it? You can see why they put the under tray on though, because it's so exposed, isn't it? You don't want to ground out your Boxster, do you? Don't have all kinds of damage. There's this huge kind of transmission tunnel here. You think they could tuck some of these pipes up in here to kind of help protect them, but it's just a lot of wasted space. It's weird. I mean, they didn't do a 4-wheel drive version of this car, so I don't know why they would need that at the front. Strange. Anyway, okay. There are some issues though, brake pipe wise. What's concerning is the jacking point is really near the brake lines. You put the lift too close, you're going to crush them. Anyway, they're generally okay, but in places, if you follow it down here, you can see the coating's come off and it's just started to rust. So I'll need to deal with that. That's the only one I've found really. Again, towards the back here again, jacking point near the brake lines. I think maybe just starting to go maybe. I'll clean them all up and inspect them all properly, but you know, it's good to know that nothing's too serious so far. Now, the main problem, let's get a light. This is not good. There's a lot of oil, there's a lot of wetness here. Just look at all that. All I have to do is clean this up and see where the source is. But my guess is it's probably the rear main seal, which is between the gearbox and the engine here. And it does have a tendency to leak. It's not, if it is that, I don't think it's a massive deal. There's probably only a little bit of oil. And when I change the clutch, I'll have access to replace that. So I'll get this cleaned up. Generally, though, the car is immaculate. I mean, that's Porsche design. There's not really any rust anywhere. Rear anti-roll bar. Sometimes these are exposed. They can get a bit rusty. Just dirty. No real rust there. All the bushings, links, caps look good. Being picky, there's a tiny bit of rust on this brace, which I'll just treat. Exhaust. I think the exhaust is aluminium, so it's not going to rust. What happened to my Boxster was that although the exhaust was fine, the bolts that hold parts of the exhaust together rusted, and so they had a small air leak, so there's nothing holding it together. That was a real pain to get off. I've got a whole video on that if you want to see me struggle. Here at the front, remember I said that the jacking points are quite near pipework? Well, this pipe's been crushed. I think it's probably aircon. No issues. Well, maybe that could be where the leak is, thinking about it. Maybe that's saying I need to test. It's not the condensers, it could be here. Well, very much like the front, the back's in a very good state. Generally, all great. The drop links, all the rubbers and bushings look fine. Clean pad left there. There is a little bit of wear on the hard lines, the brake lines, just there and down here. There's absolutely no rust. I mean, on the 350Z, this was a massive rust trap and it just was being eaten away there, but it's absolutely perfection. There's no rust in the wheel arch. You can see they put this really thick protective paint on, which is again a great design because obviously the arch is very exposed and you want to do the best you can to protect it. I mean, there's no rust where it meets the plastic bumper. Want a little cheeky peek behind this piece of plastic. It's riveted in. I don't really want to be dealing with that today, but you can peel it back and you can see inside there and it's lovely. Obviously the bumper's plastic, so that's not going to rot. Spring shows no sign of rust. No obvious leaks from the dampers. Again, like the front, a little bit of service rust on the actual strut itself. Measuring the thickness of the discs at the rear, they start off at 20mm, minimum thickness 18mm. We have 18.22mm, so getting pretty low. And it's the same situation on the near side rear. Oh dear, and this exhaust tip is in desperate need of a polish. Should find the engine number stamped to the bottom of the engine, just here, although it's completely illegible. Oh dear, that's kind of, you can just see it stamped out, but it's hard to make out what it says. Let me get a mark and see if I can colour this in, make it a bit more legible. That's a bit better. I'll take a photo and see if I can work it out.
My engine number is on the screen now, and it's the last 6 digits we're interested in. According to Porsche's 2007 service manual, all engines from 504716 have the revised larger IMS bearing. So, unfortunately, mine is the earlier, weaker one.
So all in all, not too bad. Just goes to show how well built these cars are because there's almost no rust on them at all. So that leaves me with the following things to address. There's the little bit of rust on the front seal, just need to clean that up and paint it. Rear discs to replace.
Want to replace the brake pads and fluid with something kind of track spec so they don't overheat. Got the IMS bearing to replace. Got that leak to address as well. Quite common for the rear main seal to leak on this car, so it's probably that. I'll fix that when I'm doing the IMS, and I'll probably change the clutch at the same time because it will be apart, so 3 things to do there. And brake lines. Now, whilst it's tempting to try and repair the brake lines by painting them, they're probably, for safety's sake, it's probably worth just replacing them, especially the short, hard lines. The longer lines that go along the car, I'll have to see how hard they are to replace, but it's safety, isn't it? For the sake of a few £100, it's probably best just to replace them, isn't it? Unless somebody knows better. And obviously get the rubber flexible brake hoses, I'll get those changed as well. Any questions, thoughts, recommendations, let me know in the comments. I'm all ears. And until next time, thanks for watching.